Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and join me in recognizing Floresville ISD employees who have served on the council. As I call your name, please stand and remain standing until all names have been called. Please hold your applause until all FISD veterans have been introduced. From the Air Force, Chad Adams, Richard Fox, Robin Coach, Joseph LaBeouf, Frank Manley, Esteban Martinez, John Swift, John Trujillo, Amber Yankelon, Ignacio Zamora, Army, Dennis Meagle, Marty Blows, Steve Hawkins, Jerry Archers, Tom Weber, Ramona Gonzalez Ortiz, Jeff Staminoa, Leonard Soto, Amanda Albert, Jared Shaw, Margarita Rodriguez, Christopher Galloway, Karen Heidenberg, Fernando Martinez, James Mitchell, Juan Ricio, Andrea Jackson, and Nicole Sullivan Santos. From the Navy, Rob Davis, Deborah Isaac Simmons, David Rosales, and Jacqueline Garza. From the Coast Guard, Edward Ward, Marine Corps, Alfredo de la Garza, Timothy Brown, and Vicente Gonzalez. Please join me in a round of applause for veterans, please be seated. Now we would like to recognize all the veterans here with us today. We take great pride in recognizing the armed services of the United States, as well as the reserves and associated organizations. We invite any of those who have served your country to stand when we mention your service, that we might thank you. Army, from the troops of Washington to Schwarzkopf, we honor those who have made sure that those caissons go rolling along. The United States Army. we honor the men and women of the United States Coast Guard.
Representing Floresville High School is Kaylee Loggins. Kaylee Loggins is a senior at Floresville High School. She's the daughter of Bree Loggins and U.S. Army veteran William Loggins, Jr. Kaylee is the president of FCCLA, vice president of the business.
Hold up, we're doing the Air Force. Air Force, from courageous pilots to the tireless work of their ground support, we honor those who have kept our skies clear. United States.
Now, representing Floresville High School is Kaylee Loggins. Kaylee Loggins is a senior at Floresville High School. She's the daughter of Bree Loggins and U.S. Army veteran William Loggins, Jr. Kaylee is the president of FCCLA, vice president of the Thespian Society, and a member of NHS. She also enjoys competing in academic UIL, singing with her youth worship team, and volunteering in the community.
Good morning. Today is November 11th, Veterans Day, a time of honor, a time of remembrance, and a reminder.
Without these brave men and women who have served our country, we would not have the freedoms and rights we often take for granted today. I was born shortly after 9/11, which identifies me with a generation who has always lived in a time of war. While the different wars our country has been involved with may not have been on our soil, their existence has affected thousands of families. I grew up in a military family. My father, aunt, and uncle all served in the U.S. Army. Growing up, my dad was stationed overseas in Iraq and in Afghanistan. I remember a story my mom told me from when I was a little girl. One day, I walked up to a man in a military uniform and I asked him, "How come you're here and my dad isn't?" While I knew my dad was a soldier, I had no idea he was a world away, sacrificing that time with me to protect our country. The summer between my freshman and sophomore year of high school, I volunteered at the Veterans Home in Floresville. During my time there, I spoke with several veterans and learned so much more about them. I learned about their lives, their families, and the places they have been. Veterans are brave, funny, and they have what seems like endless stories and experiences. Veterans are proud of their country and their service to this nation. Veterans are survivors. Veterans are the reason we can live here in the United States of America without a constant fear. But something we must not forget is that veterans are our families. Veterans are fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, sons, and daughters. While so many people may sum this day up by saying, "Thank you for your service," I think it's important to recognize that while we are grateful for your service, veterans have done so much more for this country. Thank you for sacrificing the time away from your friends and family. Thank you for sacrificing missed holidays and special occasions. Thank you for sacrificing your safety so that we can have ours. Thank you for being courageous so that we don't have to be. Thank you for taking on the emotional, physical, and mental pain of war so that we don't have to experience it. Thank you for fighting for us in our nation. Thank you for protecting us around the world. Today, we honor you and everything you have done for us. On the behalf of my school, my community, and my country, thank you.
Now representing Floresville Middle School is Ariana Labrada. Ariana is the daughter of Enrique and Deborah Labrada of Floresville. Ariana is an 8th grade student at Floresville Middle School, where she is involved in Honors Band, Student Council, and National Junior Honor Society. Ariana is a Student Council and NJHS president this year. She is also involved in your community and church.
Good morning. It is with great respect and appreciation for our veterans that I come here and speak today. I'd like for you to think about what comes to mind when you hear the word veteran. Perhaps it is the dangers they face during their service so that we may live our lives with ease. Or is it the countless hours of training and hard work they put into preparing themselves for harsh battles and wars? Regardless of what first comes to mind, it is without doubt that each one of us are able to attend this assembly because of the selfless acts of veterans that fought and those who continue to fight for our safety and freedom. Personally, I am reminded of my father, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather. Each of them, like the men and women here before us, served this great nation of ours. And although I was fortunate enough to have had all my family members return home safely, others aren't as blessed. Countless families have lost a beloved husband, wife, father, mother, son, daughter, brother, or sister. And yes, while the death of any armed service member is tragic and may even lead us to think of or see them as victims, let it be clear that these brave men and women are not victims. They are our heroes and our protectors who knowingly, willingly, and unselfishly accept all risks when they enlist. And despite knowing and accepting the fact that their life would be in danger, they courageously decide to serve their country, protect its citizens, secure our freedoms, and defend our great nation. I am beyond grateful for the veterans gathered here today, the veterans all over America, and to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice and were not able to make it back home. I am grateful for their noble acts and the sacrifices they and their families made for me, for you, and for everyone in the United States of America who gets to relish in the civil rights and liberties provided to the citizens of this great nation. Not too long ago, I had to write an essay about what makes America great. I kept thinking and wrote about the freedoms and opportunities that set us apart from other countries. However, it is now, as I stand here today, that I get a very clear understanding of what makes America great. Thank you, service members, both past and present, for being my protector and defender, for it is you who truly make America great.
Thank you, Kaylee Loggins and Ariana Labrada, for your presentations on this Veterans Day. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the podium Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Faith Godlitz, who will read the history of TAPS.
It was July in Virginia. The scent of the dogwood and the laurel lay heavy on the land, while the burgeoning fruit of the peach and the apple marked the full sway of summer. For 7 fateful days, the trees, the flowers, yes, the very ground itself, had shuddered under the roar of the cannon, the bark of the howitzers, and the crackling of a legion of rifles. Now, all was silent. The sledgehammer blows of Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson had mauled the Army of the Potomac, and yet that army was not destroyed. 7,000 men had fallen in that dreadful week, and the savagery of the conflict was grimly evident in the river of wounded that wound through the green hills. Now a new sound drifted in the soft evening sky, for Brigadier General Dan Butterfield, a courageous and able soldier, was also a man of music. To honor his fallen comrades, he'd composed a simple yet heart-rending melody. On July 2nd, in the year 1862, its strains floated over the graves that scarred the dark Virginia earth. It has been more than 100 years since that sound was born, but those notes have never died away. Every night of the year, throughout the world, fighting men and women of America, from the north and south, east and west, close their eyes and sleep to its call. Some of these men and women, those who have proudly served and have been called away, or those who have given the last measure of devotion in the defense of this nation, are memorialized not only by its crisp notes, but also by the hopeful legacy embedded in the lyrics of taps, which were added at a later time. When the bugler sounds taps just moments from now, in part, the following words correspond to each note of the bugle call. Day is done, gone the sun. From the hills, from the lakes, from the trees, all is well, safely rest, God is nigh. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. For taps played by Gage Strozier, member of the Mighty Tiger Band.
Please be seated. Veterans and all of you actively serving today, we want to thank you for that service and your commitment to ensuring our freedom. Let's give them one more round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an honor to be your narrator for this special Veterans Day ceremony. I would now like to ask Dr. Bays to come forward for concluding remarks and to introduce our closing song.
I would like to acknowledge the wonderful performances of our talented students in the FHS, ROTC, FHS band, and our student speakers. I would also like to thank the Veterans Day Committee for their work on this event, as well as the high school for designing today's program. And most importantly, veterans, we thank you for your service, your time, and commitment to ensure our freedom. To conclude our 2019 Veterans Day ceremony, the Mighty Tiger Band will now play America the Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Please allow our veterans to depart first. Second will be the Floresville Middle School that will depart, and then lastly, the high school students will be released. Thank you for joining us today.